to find a lover who made me forget the universe, or rather made the universe feel like it was starting within. I wanted to find a lover I could paint a picture with, and our paint would be each other, and our hues would be alive. But I've been offered love in poetry, psychoanalyzed to the bone. I've been broken and consecrated, I've been discarded in the thorns. I've been searching in all the wrong places, for I felt that that's where you'd be found. Or am I the one that's reaching like a weed, escaping the ground? And if I find you, will the universe fall away? And when I ask you, are you the one for me, will you say, look at me, until you can see that I am who I am? I am Mary Magdalene. I wanna find a lover to illuminate my empty streets, and who would dance in the radiance like you discovered our escape. I wanna find that lover who is out there looking for me. For surely there has to be, surely there has to be. I wanna find a lover, that's why I'm falling into you. 'Cause you, it seems, are falling just as deeply into me. 'Cause you, it seems, are falling just as deeply into me. Have you noticed? The universe is gone, I can feel it in our joints, struggling to begin. And when I ask you, are you the one for me? Look at me, you'll say, look at me until you can see that I am who I am. I am Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, it's a new song called Mary Magdalene. We'll put it up for sale soon with a new album. First off, we're going to talk tonight about the Muff Film Festival. And one of the things the last 5 years is if you didn't comply, you lost lots of families and friends, lots of friends. But what we made was we made new friends. And one of the first new friends I made in that time is a man with an extraordinary contrarian mind, and that's Richard Wolstencroft. Some people can't stand him, other people adore him. I'm in the adoring group, so let's bring him in. He's an incredible historical character in this time. That's Richard.
Well,
Hang on.
Here we go. Here we go. Yes, Dick from Muff, as Sam Newman calls me. He's. I think that's going to be end up on my tombstone. Dick the Muff Man. I thought that was
What's
funny.
he call you, Dick and Muff?
Well, Dick the Muff Man. You know, he always comes up with little, kind of, funny little sayings. Because obviously he was, one of the great comedians from 90s television with the Footy Show, which was a bit like Hey Hey It's Saturday, known
that's
for
right.
its politically incorrect humor and cheekiness. And it's been great working with him. It's come up to 2 years now. I've been doing that show with him, so I've
Yeah,
been doing
that's
this
amazing,
one
man.
with you about 3 or 4 years, and
Yeah,
you know,
4
on again
years,
off.
I'd say. Well,
Yeah,
let's do Muff first, and then we'll do Muff again later towards the end.
yeah,
So
sure,
let's
mate. Yep.
tell us about the Muff Festival and the history of the Muff Festival.
Well, Muff started in 2000 because I made a film called Pearls Before Swine, which you can get on Amazon and on the internet. There's a company called Soleil Moon in the United States who sells that film. It was this kind of quite a right wing, action movie, if that's possible. There's not many of those around. It was, just considered politically incorrect. I tried to enter it into the Melbourne International Film Festival, but they told me to go fuck myself, basically. I had a friend, or someone who I knew, Philip Brophy,
Then it must be good.
Yeah, that's right. I wrote this outraged, email to this internet group that was to do with the film community, and I received about 50 emails from people saying, "Look, my film was rejected from the Melbourne International Film Festival because it was a lesbian film. My film got rejected because it was a vampire film. My film got rejected because it was a horror film." And all these films that they were describing sounded much better than the official selection of the Melbourne International Film Festival every year. And I said, "Look, okay, you're all in. I'm going to start a festival, and everyone is accepted." So I've just accepted everybody, sight unseen. And amongst those people who'd entered their films was James Wan, who went on to create the Saw films, which became the biggest horror franchise in history until the Conjuring films, which were also created by James Wan, he beat himself. So he owns the two biggest. Obviously the Halloween and Friday the 13th are the two other main ones. But if you look up, who's the biggest, highest earners in cinema because of these two franchises, he's in the top 10 of all time, up there with George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and all these people. And the first film festival in the world.
I remember seeing him interviewed, and he said they didn't have much money, so they had to make a film that literally could be in one room, and that's how they came up with the idea.
Exactly. So he was in the
first one was terrifying. When that guy stood up, in that film, when that man who'd been laying on the floor the whole time stood up, that was effing terrifying. That was
great, wasn't it? It was a good
terrifying.
Film. And there was a
short film, the first one.
It started as a short. The film he played in Muff was called Stygian. He made with a guy called Shannon Young, and he had his friend Lee Winnell was sort of involved in helping out on that. And then during Muff 2, they did a short for this film, Saw. It was like a short. Paul Motor, who does the Wasp Files, he was in that. He played one of the guys in the room. No one would fund it in Australia. Of course, no one would fund it in Australia. And so then, of course, it went to America. And then I think it was New Line or one of those companies like that, Blumhouse. One of those two picked them up, and it became this massive success. So we had Patrick Hughes. His films, he went on to make one of the Expendables with Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
He does The Hitman's Boyfriend. We had discovered Scott Ryan a few years later, who went on to do that fantastic show, Mr. In Between. So that's kind of what we do at Muff. We discover new talent, and we do it simply by just allowing people to play their work if they're passionate. You know what I mean? We don't care if it's politically correct. We don't care. We prefer that it's interesting, and that it shows. We don't care about the budget, we don't care if it's made for $10 on an iPhone. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, we prefer it when it's like, a little bit rough around the edges. And just by doing that, we've been able to discover just about every important filmmaker that's come out of this country the last 25 years. So 25 years is a long time, mate. I mean, you get less for manslaughter. I know that much.
Brother.
And I don't know how long I'm going to continue running it myself, but I've considered handing it over to somebody else. And the problem is I've considered stepping down before, but then people have always wanted to get rid of me. And so whenever someone wants to get rid of me, I think I got to stay on. So inadvertently, my enemies have kept me doing this for 25 years. But I had one guy who absolutely hated me, and he was like from Antifa or something. He built his whole life around hating me, basically. He dropped dead 2 years ago. You know why? He was a really big pro. I don't know exactly why, but he was a huge, pro-vaccine guy. He was Mr. Get the fifth jab, the sixth jab. I think he got the 5th jab, and that was it, mate. You know what I mean? Now, I don't wish something bad to happen to everybody. There was a certain irony there, though, when you have one of your arch enemies just drop dead on you, mate.
Yeah. That's right. There's,
So there
but
we go.
it's it's really important that these festivals exist
I think so.
because Australia is becoming almost puritanical. You know,
It's a
can't laugh at
cultural
itself.
wasteland out there, isn't it, mate? You know,
Yeah,
and
it is. It really
you know,
is.
why
Yeah.
isn't there? I mean, I guess there's fringe. I mean, a fringe is something, you know, but I mean, would they allow you to have a play at fringe? You know what I mean?
No,
Maybe,
I
maybe
I
not.
just created a scandal just by
Existing.
no. We Kelly and I were in a hotel the other day,
Yeah.
and the light was really interesting in the morning, and we took this. And
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
I said, "That's a fucking beautiful picture, man. That's a beautiful picture." And
There should be a catalog. I think there should be a catalog, though. You know,
so
like
we
it should be
put it
like
up.
a cafe locked out catalog.
But I asked Kelly, you know, do you mind if we put it up? Because I put it up to say, I'm 60. Why can't we be sexy? Why can't we be growing?
Oh,
Why do we have to sit in this world where, oh, you're 60 now, there's a paddock over there, go wait there, and the abattoir truck will turn up, you know? And I was in Bunnings the other day, just yesterday, and watching all these and I'm going to say it, woke employees who
yes.
look, because I read something the other day that 45% of men 18 to 25 have never asked a woman out. I
Yeah.
mean, for
I
fuck's
mean,
sake, why wouldn't you do that? You know,
yeah, I saw
it,
this
it
video the other day of these women in New York who are wandering around, and they get dressed up, and they're attractive 20-year-olds, and yet no men
yeah,
approach them in this day and age because there's
yeah,
this whole
that's
weird
right.
thing about it's considered like if you go up and say hello to a girl, they're like, oh, you know, the woke ones might go, oh, what are you doing, trying to rape me or something? I mean, you know,
Yeah, I know,
well, this
and
is what
it's
woke
actually a form of depopulation because they're not doing
it
it.
is.
I don't know how they're going to get together, but I watched
Well, yeah,
this
this
one
is the
young
whole
guy.
agenda of all this, you know, what you call
Well, look, let's
globo
be honest
homo,
here.
mate. Globo homo.
I saw this one. I won't rant forever. I saw this one young guy, and he's a bit taller than me. Not a bad looking guy, but just there's no sexuality to him. He's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand. It's like that's been removed. He's just happens to be the physical representation of man. Anyway, this girl comes up and she's the same. She's a female version. She's got all her head shaved down the back, but she's absolutely sexless. Nothing about her, nothing the way she moved, nothing. There's these two were sexless young people. When I was 21, my heart, my soul, my body was a transportation device for a constant erection. That's all it was. All I could think of was sex, and that's it.
Wow.
I was
Sure. Yeah.
nuts. I was just obsessed. Not
Yeah.
obsessed thing, but I just was horny 24/7.
Well, you know,
And
you're preaching to the choir here, mate. I mean, I started the sex club, didn't I,
yeah,
when
I
I was
know you
23?
started. That's right. You
I
left me
think
for dead.
Freud would have had something to say about my mind back then. You know what I mean? So, you know, I mean, yeah, when you're in your 20s, you're, you know, young and dumb and full of cum, as the saying goes, and ready
Yeah,
to,
that's right. Or it
you know, have
should be,
some
but
good
now
fun.
they're not. Now they're just young and it's almost like
Look, I think we're
sexless.
lucky. We're very lucky to have been born in that time. You know, like,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, and also too things like pornography and stuff. Like when you discovered porn, when you, I don't know, this would have been in the late 70s, early 80s for me. I mean, it's like a Playboy magazine, which is completely
Yeah,
innocent.
that's right.
You know what I mean? Thank God they
That's
didn't have
right.
the internet. You know what I mean?
That's right.
When I was
Yeah.
at that age, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you know, someone like Nick Fuentes spoke about this in his recent interview with Tucker Carlson. That you know, young men have had their minds warped by the time they reach 18 by pornography,
Yeah.
which, as we
Yeah.
all know, you know, is funded by rabbis and all this kind of thing. Pornhub is owned by a rabbi or something, God knows what. And you know,
I understand that though. You know, I didn't access hardcore pornography. Uh oh, maybe 16, 17 we found some magazines, but generally you didn't. Generally
yeah, yeah.
it was hard to access it. You know, I
It
think
was
you could
certainly
send
hard
away
in
for a
our time to
catalog and
access that,
stuff.
yeah. And I think that,
Yeah.
you know, that created a healthy atmosphere. I think the prevalence of pornography, you know, on the internet these days is very damaging
Yeah.
to young people. And to be honest, even though this generation is quite strange, you know, obviously then the they, them and all that stuff, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing they aren't stranger in many ways because, you know, the level of, you know, poison they've had poured into their minds
Yeah.
by the internet must be incredibly damaging, you know.
Yeah. Well, it was an organic learning, really, wasn't it? You know what I mean? And
It
it's not
was in
like
the old days. And things like,
yeah,
I mean, that's why I dislike all this stuff about it being, things like homosexuality and stuff being taught in schools. Because I mean, it's not that I don't have problems with homosexuals at all, and I know many. But it's something that develops, as you develop.
well, you know
You
yourself.
develop, you develop sort of naturally or
Yeah,
unnaturally or
if
whatever.
you're into like what was that
And
singer
then
who's
when
died
when
now?
the time you reach 16 to 18, you maybe have worked out whether you're gay or you're straight or you're this or you're that. You don't need anyone telling you what to do and think.
No.
It's certainly not the state, the government, Big Brother or whatever. I mean, that's why all this aspect of what's called globo homo or whatever, I object to, because
Yeah,
I
me
think,
too.
it's just leave people alone. Let them, and when they
Yeah.
reach 18, they can decide. And once people decide they're adults, they can do what they like, end of story. You know,
Yeah. And
as
and
long as
they
they don't hurt
discovered remember
anybody.
what was the singer, George what was his name? George Michael,
Yeah.
because he was a massive star, incredibly sexy man. I'm sorry, he's good
Yeah.
looking, talented, and he just, that song of his, one of the great songs he had. What's that? No, it was
Well, I
another
mean,
song.
I've been accused of being homophobic for various reasons, but I mean, I love bands
Faith. You know the
like
song Faith that he put
Erasure,
out?
I like bands like Erasure, Soft Cell, like
Yeah.
Pet Shop Boys. I
But
even
what
like
I'm
the
saying is
Monster
George
T
Michael
group.
actually said that he changed. Earlier on he was into women, then he changed into men when he was older.
Yeah,
That became his
I've
thing.
known gay guys, or I guess you could call them more bi guys that do that. But anyway, this
Yeah.
is not some big sexual.
But what
Yeah,
I'm saying is you found this out organically by yourself and you do.
exactly,
Your body
exactly,
gets
and
an
that's the way it
appetite
should be.
and then you follow you go to satisfy the appetite
Yeah,
and, whichever
and
way
you
you
move
swing, that's it.
towards.
We
There
don't
you go.
need the government to help us with that.
No,
We're
no, no,
very good
exactly.
at figuring that out for ourselves.
Exactly, and these days, and the why is the government getting involved in that? I mean, that's another whole ball of wax. So it's just
Oh,
very strange.
100%.
Mhm.
100%.
So, what do you want to
Yeah.
know? What are we going to talk about? I don't want to talk about this sex bullshit anymore.
No, we'll leave it now. So, everybody watching, you can all quit now because we're not going to talk about sex anymore. Not that Richard and I have ever had sex together because we decided different paths when we were younger. Maybe when I met him when we were 20, who knows? He's a bad boy. But now,
What are you talking
now I
about?
think I want to talk straight up. Have a little bit of a break to get serious.
Okay,
Let's talk about our great friend Damien, who's been
all right.
convicted of doing a Nazi salute,
Yeah, well, it's
which is
interesting.
ridiculous.
It's an interesting situation, isn't it? I mean, look, there's a few, I guess, ways to look at it. I mean, you know, one of the weird things is first of all, they always use the terminology Nazi salute. It's not really a Nazi salute. It's called the Roman salute even on Wikipedia. Now, this was a salute that goes right back to ancient Rome. Now, I've noticed that when I first researched this topic in the 80s and 90s, it was widely accepted that this was a common salute in ancient Rome. And
Wow. Okay.
Wikipedia has been rewritten. They say that it was,
Mm.
something that sort of came out of a painting by Caspar, Jacques Louis David called "The Oath of the Horatio." You can look that up online, and they're doing the. Obviously, we're not going to be demonstrating anything tonight, and the Oath of the Horatio. And so, for whatever reason, maybe it was an affectation that came out of the Romantic movement. In the 17th and 18th century, that in many painters and poets, they imagined people doing this. And then I guess the person who popularized it in the 20th century was Benito Mussolini. And I think Benito Mussolini was inspired by a guy by the name of Gabriele D'Annunzio, who was a war hero and a poet, a kind of warrior poet, who seized the state of Fiume. And he declared what's considered the first fascist state. It was just a small part of, I think, of what is now, what's the country next to Italy? I think it's Serbia or one of those, Croatia, one of those countries, right?
Yeah.
It's called the port of Fiume. He seized it, and Mussolini went along there, and it was it had a lot of aspects. People in kind of military uniforms and doing the whole Roman salute, and it was sort of a military dictatorship in this town, but yet it was also very sexually liberated, and people were taking drugs and doing it was just crazy. And so it was like almost like a free, it was like a hippie community if it was run by the Nazis, if that makes sense. You know, which sounds crazy, right? But that's what it was. And for whatever reason, Mussolini goes along there. Mussolini sees this and just wets his pants and thinks this is incredible. So he goes back. He was a former socialist, but after seeing this kind of state of Gabriele D'Annunzio, he decides to start the fascist movement, and then starts, and then I don't know exactly when the salute became a popular thing within the Italian fascist party, but it did become popular pretty early on. And then, then of course, Hitler was of course inspired by Mussolini, and then, Hitler's movement, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, was one of many, movements that was inspired by Mussolini, because Mussolini was considered a very popular world statesman. America loved him. England loved him. This is in the 20s. So he was not a pariah at all. He was considered, as a matter of fact, there were strong fascist movements in most European countries. For example, in England, there was Oswald Mosley. In France, there was, what's the name of that group? I can't remember their name. The Action Français.
I just want to say,
yep.
We've got our Cafe Locked Out YouTube page back. It came up, appealed, and I appealed, and they said, why should we give it to you back? I said, because the stuff I do is good. And they got back and said, yes, this is the original Cafe Locked Out, 5 years old, that was banned literally within the first few months. So you go there, there's interviews on Cafe Locked Out, YouTube page, that are from the original, literally within the first month or so of when we started it. I was quite surprised. They've given it back to me. So
good.
Anyway, I was just saying, if you want to,
anyway, I was giving you a little history of this salute, and then obviously,
So go back to what you were saying.
The Nazis did use the salute, obviously, and then post World War II, obviously, World War II ended pretty badly for the right wing fascist governments in Italy, Germany, and Japan. So then the salute, I guess, became associated with neo-Nazism and that kind of thing. Obviously, it's. I'm not sure what countries on earth it's legal in. It's, I think, legal in most countries, but this one has decided in recent years to make this symbol illegal. Now, another interesting thing is there is a famous salute. It's often called the Black Power salute. You'll be familiar with it. It's the raised fist. It's connected with communism. It's a Marxist salute. It's just raising your fist up in the air.
G'day,
with the arm extended, right? Now, that's almost like the left-wing version of the Roman salute, right? Now, that is completely legal to do in this country. And even though, for example, communism is connected to the deaths of over 100 million people in the 20th century. So it's just, why are gestures being made illegal? But, given the fact that it has been made illegal, what happened with Damo? What's your interpretation of what happened to Damo before I say anything?
With Damo, I think Lynn said here, I totally agree with this. He was a tongue-in-cheek satire of the information with Mac Trihey. I think that's what he was doing. It was a satirical political comment that should be beyond the reach of the law to come after him. I think because of his work through the last 5 years, not just with Cafe Locked Out, but his work, his vaccination status, and other things like that, I think they're coming after him. I think he was certainly a target. In place. Yeah,
he was a target. He made himself to a certain extent a target. That they would like to take down, and it's clear that they are moving ahead with that. You know what I mean? Like,
I think so.
He was connected, as you well know. I mean, you were there with him on the steps of what's the name of that building? Oh my God, I can't believe it.
The Shrine of Remembrance.
The Shrine, exactly. He was there with you there, and I guess in my opinion, that's why doing something like that in this particular moment is possibly not the smartest thing to do, because it enables them, whether the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, the opportunity to rake you over the coals. You know what I mean? And politically persecute you over something that's essentially kind of pretty nonsensical. That's even against
Well, so the best comment I saw was when he was first arrested. This man said, "We fought against the Nazis, so Damien had the right to do the salute. We fought for the freedom that he's allowed to do it." And I think that's actually the most profound comment.
And also, people who ban these kind of things don't realize that. What does that mean? That the Roman salute is now like a sign of, it's like a sign of like rebellion to do that. You know what I mean? Like they're making it. Whenever you forbid something, it sort of gains a certain level of, you know what I mean? Like people want to do it more. You know what I mean? When you make something
right.
forbidden. So and it does questions. Raise a lot of questions around that. But in this political climate, it's just. And also, too, there's obviously many people in mainstream media who are carrying on about the rise in anti-Semitism and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's a worry that, this is all feeding into what's going on.
Well, the interesting thing now is I don't know when I saw when he was being sentenced. I can't remember now. I thought it was December the 4th. So they're moving ahead pretty quickly with it.
What was his what did he say in relation to? Did he say he was doing it deliberately, or I saw somewhere
he said it was theatrical. It was theatrical. He was making a political.
Was it a play though? He wasn't in a play.
No, but it was a performance. It was a political sort of satirical theatrical statement.
Yeah. I mean, I did see the video. He said something like, "Well, what will happen to me if I do this?" And a certain. And I guess we're going to find out, aren't we? Because you know what I mean. Like he did it, and I mean, there was a guy from the National Socialist Network who did one quite deliberately. Who is he considers himself a neo-Nazi, and he did one to test the waters, and he got, I think, a month in jail or something like that. So I mean, that's, I think, the state of play of this, thing.
Well, it's really interesting now. They've got the ability to jail him, but you've got the police commissioner came out the other day, says, they know 600 of these youths that are going around terrorizing Melbourne, and they know of 500 of them. And I think Tom pointed it out when he was asked how many are on bail, and he said there's 500 that shouldn't be in society. So he couldn't say they were on bail, but obviously get in trouble with
youths, I mean, that's very interesting. We should talk about that. These African gangs. I mean, there was, it's very interesting. Did you hear that there were 33? Was the number, which is of course the Masonic, 33 degrees. Which is another coincidence. People who study numerology often notice that. And then there's apparently 600 or 700 members of this gang. They're the ones who are terrorizing.
And they're not all African. I know they get the most.
True. They're not all African. But
I think one who's being jailed now for murdering a doctor is a white guy who is the son of a quite high-ranking Victoria police officer. It's
they're not all, but it seems to be like some kind of look. I mean, I've kind of heard. I mean, I've heard. I have people, from the nightclub days, who sort of know a little bit about organized crime and how it'll work. I think what's happening is the larger mafia groups of the different ethnicities, whether they be Italian, Jewish, Lebanese, whatever. They're using these groups to, because when you're under 18, you don't go to jail. You generally get let out almost no matter what you do. For example, I heard that something I spoke about on the Sam Newman show is two of these Africans had murdered two, like a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old. I mean, and they were out on bail. I found that very surprising.
For murder.
Can you imagine for murder? I can't imagine anyone.
They murdered them with a machete.
Yeah,
a machete is not like a gun where you do one shot. A machete is a horrible way to die.
It
actually just hacks in. So you've got to really hack away with it, isn't?
Well, see, it is an African weapon. It is an African weapon in countries.
I agree, but it's a horrendous way to die.
No, because that's what they do over there in Africa. They hack each other to death up in these. When obviously not all of Africa is like this. I mean, I've been to Africa. I went to Uganda.
Well, that's what happened in Rwanda.
Southern Uganda, for example, was very peaceful, almost like Thailand. You could go to southern Uganda, have a nice holiday, go to whatever. But northern Uganda, I also went there. That's where all this macheting went on, and it was unbelievable, mate. I met people who had to murder their parents with machetes, and the level of inhumanity to man, it was extraordinary, off the charts. And this is similar situations in countries like Sudan, Somalia, obviously the Sudanese.
Rwanda. I mean, a million people were killed or more.
Nigeria,
most of them were killed with machetes.
Congo. These are nightmare places. In certain areas. It's not like there are no nice places. There are nice places in these countries where it's probably safe to go as a tourist, but there are also very, very bad areas. What I learned about Africa is that when it's nice, it's super nice and it's safe, and but when it isn't, it can turn from one to the other like that. Suddenly it goes from that, because we were told, for example, when you're driving down a road, if you would accidentally hit somebody, because we as Westerners would pull over and help the person who accidentally hit on the side of the road. We were told, whatever you do, don't stop. We go, why? Because you'll be murdered. What do you mean? If you're a white person and you've accidentally hit an African, you will be murdered happily by the entire village, and they'll love it. And that'll be it. So we were told to keep going, tell the authorities, and then get out of the whole fucking area. That was what we were told when we were driving around northern Uganda. Of course, we never hit anybody because we were very careful after that. I'm sure
You're doing like 5 Ks an hour.
That's what we did. Very careful, mate. We had a few machetes in the back, but that didn't help.
So we got that. Now I have to admit, I decided to have a few weeks off.
Yeah, what happened there?
I just haven't been doing social media at all. Just going up just a few things here and there, but I've literally not been following the world much. So what else out there is to talk about? Because I'm going to do a show with Paul tomorrow and another guy about what's kind of state of the world.
Been going
but
on,
it's actually been healing. It's actually really good to.
When you told me about that, I thought, well, this is a really good thing. Like it is good to get away.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize. One of the things you realize when you look at your phone, because occasionally you'll hit the wrong button, it'll tell you how many hours a day you've been on the phone. And I mean, if it's only say 1 or 2 hours, I'm all right with that. But if I look at my phone, I've been on it 6, 7 hours. Like I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing with my life on this fucking thing?
I know that is really interesting. So I've been creating. So I wrote that song, Mary Magdalene, another song called Taxi Lover, and which we'll finish with, and been working on getting the essay book out, which is selling, and there's a big push from the publisher this weekend to push it, and so yeah, but mainly just walking, looking around, just figuring out, okay, well, it's been 5 years of go. I social media literally every 5 minutes I'm at the phone, and now suddenly I've had 2 weeks of just stopping.
Yeah, look, you get it when you're on holidays. Like sometimes, when I'm traveling overseas or whatever, it's particularly nice when you don't have phone reception. You know what I mean? So, and that, it's great to get away from our phones. Our lives are all dominated far too much by them. I mean, David Thrussell was recently on the WASP Files with Paul Motor, which was nice. I organised getting those two together. And,
cool.
Lots of going on in the political sphere. Obviously, Donald Trump is continuing his adventures, and all the people who hate him. They celebrated that election of that guy Mamdani or whatever.
The mayor of New York,
Zoran, who is I'm not exactly sure of his ethnicity. He's sort of Arab. Someone said he came from Uganda, partly. I don't know, but he's considered whatever reason the far right considers him an Arab. There's all these memes like that he's like some related to Osama bin Laden or whatever, which I think it's a bit of a long bow.
I don't think anyone related to Osama bin Laden is going to get voted into the mayor.
I will say this about the Trump revolution is that one of the things that he promised to do was to make life more affordable for the average American, and I think to some extent Trump is caught up in with all this rubbish with Israel. I mean, you know what I mean? Endless rubbish there, and all these wars. He's concentrating on the foreign policy. I mean, and he's been having some success. He's been doing good things. I'm saying he hasn't. I mean, he's been doing some good things. But really, I think a lot of Americans who voted for him, and and also too our local government with Albo, we want life to be cheaper. We want least affordable again. You know what I mean? Because you go into a service station to get a bag of chips and a Coke and say I don't know, an ice cream. There's $20. If you want a pack of cigarettes, that's $50. So that's $70.
I'll bring this up. So there was 2 things yesterday that really floored me. One was I went to buy a loaf of bread from a bakery and a meat pie.
Yep.
Kelly likes meat pies. I'm into them. I thought I'll buy a meat pie. So just a bog standard meat pie and 1 loaf of bread. One of their loaves. She comes up to me. She goes, $16.90.
Unbelievable. Yeah, thinking, of course. Yeah.
A
No, look,
loaf of bread and a meat pie is $16.90.
of
And
course it
then
is.
this happened,
That
and
sounds cheap
so I
these
got a
days.
call. So watch this. This is, I don't know if you can see this. This is 10th of August, 19th September when I was in Melbourne. Bolte Bridge to Tullamarine Freeway. So that's not a huge drive. That's really not a huge drive. $29. No, this
Yeah,
is
look,
Melbourne.
everything is,
$29 for
yeah,
that
it's a
short
scam.
trip.
I mean, that freeway, for example, has been paid off a long time ago by these
Yeah,
ridiculous
that's just
tolls. It was
robbery,
paid
man.
off
That's
a long
just
time ago.
daylight robbery.
No, but see, the government is so badly run, the Victorian government locally, that obviously every chance they get, they try and screw the little man. And
Mm,
I think that's why one of the reasons I like what's called right wing populism is that it appealed to the little man. But when it ignores the little man, that's when the left will come back. And that's why someone like Zoran Mandami, he's promising things like free public transport, free rides on the subway or whatever. You know what I mean? People who can
mm.
actually make life more affordable. That's that will win votes, and it won't matter.
It's like
So
Hillary Clinton said, the election is about three things: the economy, the economy, the economy.
I
And
think that was
that's
James
right.
Carville. That was James Carville who was like, like an
Oh,
advisor to the.
really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
he, yeah, it's basically a Clinton quote, and yeah, it's very important, and I think Donald Trump has to really focus on that. Like, obviously, he wants, I mean, some say he's going to run in 2028. That'd be nice, but I don't know if
Can he
he's
do that?
legally. I don't know. I mean, you can do anything really if you want to, mate. You know what I mean? So as
Yeah.
you got the military behind you, I'm a big fan of military coups, mate. Told
You
you that
know what
100.
I like about
You know
Donald?
what?
He's entertaining.
He is. He is. He's very
Biden
funny.
was never entertaining. Biden used to make you feel like you just vomited in your mouth.
Well,
There's
I
a
mean,
little
that's
vomit.
right.
He just
I think
really made you give you the creeps. And when he do that thing kissing the kids, you just like going, "What? How the hell did that happen?"
he is a
But
creep.
Donald, and they, he goes to the press, answer me something. If he doesn't like it, he'll tell you off. It's,
Yeah, look what he did
I
to
find him I find him really entertaining.
like
Yeah,
Kevin Rudd. I mean, Albo and him seem to get along. I think one of the reasons, when you meet with Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump is a negotiator, and
yeah,
what Australia has right now, and I'll tell you, is rare earth minerals, right? And China has a kind of something of a global stranglehold on rare earth
yes, that's
minerals.
correct.
And Trump's been
Yeah,
going around securing these wherever he can, because there are many other countries in the world. One of the reasons he's interested in Greenland, because it has so many rare earth minerals, and also
okay.
Australia has. So you'll notice he didn't lecture Albo about
Albo.
local politics. He got involved. In Canada, he lectured the guy from Canada, the guy from England. I mean, the Prime Minister of England, he lectured him on local politics. But with Albo, he didn't, because I think he wanted to keep sweet. And the
Yeah,
person
yeah,
he did
yeah.
have a go at was Kevin Rudd, who had
I don't
said
like you. I don't think I ever will. I just saw Rudd going back that night, literally throwing everything that wasn't tied down against a wall in that mansion where he lives.
I mean, he should
Thank
resign,
you.
really. But obviously, I don't know. Maybe Kevin Rudd's got some photographs of Albo in a compromising situation. So there's some reason he's still there.
Yeah, that's right.
Quick
That's
Epstein
right.
file. I don't know what it is, mate. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Albo could even just be loyal to an old party stalwart, and maybe thinks that's a good place to keep Kevin Rudd as far away from Albo as possible over in America. So I don't know how it works. Wasn't it interesting that he wore the Joy Division T-shirt? Did you see that?
Yes, I did. I did see
Because
that.
Joy Division is a right-wing band named after a Nazi
Yeah.
concentration camp, right? And of course,
Yeah.
the Jewish community all got up. I thought that was the coolest thing that Albo's ever done when he came down the
Well,
steps.
actually, no. I saw something. I don't know if it's true, but the Australian government is one of the first governments that's going to say if you want to use artist work for AI, you need the permission from the artist. And I thought, wow, I don't know how they're going to make that work
Well, it
because
wasn't AI. He was just wearing a T-shirt, But I
no,
think he
no,
was
but
making
that's
a
another thing
mistake.
they've done. That's just come out. It hasn't
Yeah,
made
yeah.
much fanfare,
But I think
but I
Albo,
thought,
by wearing that T-shirt, was making a statement because I mean, Trump is considered a fascist, and Joy Division is considered in some circles a fascist band, right? Because the lead singer committed suicide, and he was a far right ethno nationalist. Anyway, he. So I think I'm not saying that Albo supports it. I'm just saying and the name of the album was Unknown Pleasures. I think he enjoyed the company of Trump, and that they did some probably very financially beneficial deals for both America and Australia. So he wore that T-shirt as a kind of gag. I think he got in trouble for it, but there you go.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It is interesting. Yeah.
Trump
So what
wants
else has
that
been
in-
happening while
Yeah.
I've been away from the world? What else have we got to deal
Well,
with?
I mean, what else has been happening? Got all that trouble over in the United Kingdom. Obviously there's this constant
With the stabbings on the trains?
stabbing. There was a big stabbing on the train. There's some black guy loose. Obviously he lacked the machete. I mean, maybe he could have got one out of the bin, from Victoria.
No, I
But
actually think the
he
knives
went
they
the
use are
old-fashioned
more
knife.
deadly.
When
I saw
when
the old-fashioned knives. They're more
Yeah,
deadly, I think, than the machete because they're like a stabbing knife. You know
well,
what I
of
mean?
course, and you can't. I mean, it's ridiculous to try and. I mean, if you want a deadly weapon, you can find one in any household, mate. So
Mm.
the problem is the people, mate. And obviously, we need to begin mass deportations in our Western countries. But for whatever reason, even though that's the number one thing people want, no government will give it to them. Particularly the United Kingdom government, who
Well,
has had so
we
many
heard
people.
here, I got someone from Canberra reached out to me, and I did a post about it, and they said that to them it's got nothing to do with ideology. The Treasury has given a monetary figure to every new migrant, and they figured, you get a new migrant in 10 years, he'll be worth this much money. And some won't, some will be on the dole, but some will start businesses. It'll balance out. That's about this much money. And so they're bringing in all these people thinking that that money is going to be made by these immigrants, and the government has already allocated that money.
Mhm.
So the
Well,
government
it's
is
one of the mass
spending money
immigration.
that they haven't earned through mass migration. But what she said is they want to double the population of Australia. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, it's going to all be
And
foreigners,
that's
isn't
the
it?
goal.
And
And the fact that that's happening without our permission, without even
Yeah.
talking to us, almost against our wills.
And I think it's funny too that, like, for example, if you and I go and live in Japan, we're not Japanese, right? We're Aussies,
No.
right? And if
No
we
matter
have,
how long we live
if
there.
you go there with your partner who's also an Australian, you have children. The children, even though they're born in Japan, they're not Japanese. You know what I
No.
mean?
Yeah.
They're still Aussie, right? So this is what we got here,
That
ladies and gentlemen.
Singapore's another one. I had a friend who was Singapore. His grandfather was Chinese. So the grandfather or great-grandfather, it's like 4 generations that lived in Singapore. He was still seen as a Chinese immigrant.
Well,
There was
sure.
jobs
Of
he
course
couldn't
he
go
was.
for, anything. The Singaporeans are very strict about
They are.
keeping Singaporeans in charge of everything.
They
They
are.
patriotic to that level.
That's
We
run by a
just give it
fascist.
away.
It's run by a fascist government. I love Singapore. It's one of my favorite countries on earth, and it's one of the few countries on earth where what is called multiculturalism actually works, right? And I'll tell you, it works because it's run by a fascist government. It's called the PAP. The symbol is essentially the same symbol. It's a lightning bolt. It's the same symbol as the British Union of Fascists, the Oswald Mosley's symbol from England. So they're right wingers, and I went to one of their rallies. One time I was there, with my friend or whatever, and we were walking down the street, and this couple come up and said, "Look, we can't go to the rally. Would you like to go?" And we didn't know what it was, but it was basically like a Singapore Nazi rally where they celebrate the nation or whatever, and we just couldn't believe we were there, And they have the military, and it was a huge military parade, and everyone was waving the Singapore flag, and I was very pleased to be somehow stumble across this gigantic right-wing thing in the middle of Singapore. But it's very well run. It's also one of the highest home owning rate. Just about everybody in Singapore owns their own home. There's no homeless people. Like, if you fall into a certain level of destitution, you're taken to a work camp where you're then you have to get your act together, basically. You work, and once you're working properly, then you're reintegrated into society. They're very strict about things like graffiti. If you do graffiti, you get about 50 lashes or something like that. That straightens you right out. And it's not something like you get at the Hellfire Club, mate. This is like some kind of martial arts expert, laying on something the size of the thickness of your thumb. That takes the skin right off your back, mate. So that's no fun in that at all. So,
do you think, could you conceive that it is possible under a fascist government to be freer than you are in a democracy which
Of
is
course,
controlled by the woke left, where
of course.
no one can speak. No, where in fascist governments say that's the rule. You don't graffiti,
You
we'll
look at,
lash you. Do this, we'll do this. But
of
anything
course.
else, you're free.
You look at a country like, say, Indonesia and Thailand. I mean, many Aussies have been on holidays in these countries,
Yeah,
and these are countries that are run essentially by fascist military dictatorships. I mean, sure,
yeah,
there's democracy. I mean, whatever, as long as the military's always in charge, right? You know what I mean? So they put
yeah,
up the candidate one, So it's really not. It's a similar situation in our countries, really. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you go to a country like Thailand, and also we're talking about the cost of living. I mean, I went to a holiday in Bali in June this year, and you walk into a 7-Eleven and you buy a pack of chips, a pack of cigarettes, a drink, a this or that, and you can get all this for under $10, mate. It'd cost
yeah,
you 100 in Australia. So in other words,
yeah,
it's not the cost of the items. The items can be produced cheaply, and we could be paying those prices. And it's
yeah.
absolutely criminal. I'll say it right now, fucking
That is
criminal
criminal.
that we're not, because the people in that country pay so little, and this isn't a 7-Eleven. If you go to like to a supermarket, it's even cheaper. What you get for say $10. If you go to a supermarket, you get it for $6. So
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, obviously they get paid less over there, but it's we're all getting screwed, and this is
Mm.
really a huge, huge thing, and it makes me angry, when you see poor people who can't afford to eat properly in our own countries, and you see so many homeless, and it's just sad. We have such a high standard of living, but the amount of money we pay for things in this country is
Oh,
patently
it's
ridiculous.
it's
And
actually
anyone,
terrifying.
yeah,
It's actually terrifying how quickly money goes in. Even say we're doing a lot of posting at the moment for products. Postage in this country is crippling. That it's cost you so much to send something to someone, and yet at the moment, one of the big businesses in Australia is mail order. People are buying stuff online. So if they had cheaper postage, that would allow that industry to boom. You know, but instead they're making sure they get their cut. You know, it's
yep,
so expensive. Yeah,
yep.
it's incredible. You know?
Yeah. So, there are good reasons to, be sometimes strict on some issues, but I think it's good to show compassion on some issues as well. So it's always a mix. And I think this dialectic that we're seeing between left and right, I mean, I really think that whatever side of politics best plays to people's basic needs, which are security and safety, cost of
Mm.
living, common
Oh,
sense,
that's the thing.
our
Yeah.
morals. You know what I mean? Not pushing things that are too radical on either end of the spectrum. So in other words, we don't
Yeah.
want the handmaid's tale, but we don't want the whatever Epstein Island either. So you know what I mean? Like, so not one
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's whoever can push that agenda the best. I think will be
Yeah.
successful politically. In the next coming 20 years. But we also have the whole problem now with AI and you saw, it looks like Elon Musk could become a trillionaire. I quite like Elon Musk. I
I
think there's a
saw
lot of
that.
good things about him. And he
Yeah, I
could be the
like him
world's
too.
first trillionaire. I mean,
I know.
he appears to be on our side a lot of the time. But he's building robots that are going to replace the jobs. And I just saw an article before logging on here with you on Facebook that 150,000 Australians are going to be replaced by robots. I mean, this is
Yeah.
something. It's a moral and ethical issue that should be really to be debated in Parliament, and it shouldn't. I don't think it should be
Well, the thing
allowed.
is, why are we here? Are we here just to make money for corporations, or is this a human country where we
Yeah,
look after the humans?
yeah.
Another thing I want to talk about, though, I'll come back to that. I think the big thing I saw was Bill Gates came out and basically said climate change is not an issue. He said there is no threat for the
I agree.
foreseeable future for climate change. And this is basically one of the
That's huge,
architects.
by the way. That's huge.
This is
Because
enormous. This is one of the architects of the climate
lie.
scam.
Yep.
And so he's coming out saying it's not an issue, and yet here they're paying $1 billion to have a climate change
Summit.
summit. They're paying $1 billion for that. You travel the country, there's windmills or the turbines all across the country. They're not working. Solar farms all across the country, we're not using them. All this absolute waste of time and energy, destruction of the environment, all of it, and it's pointless.
Yeah. I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, that when Bill Gates made that statement, essentially it was the gig is up. The gig of the climate
that's what
lie.
he said.
Because to me, the two big lies that turned up at the turn of the century when 2000 hit was, Y2K. Remember Y2K?
Yeah.
Now that was the short con, right? That was what's called the short con. They said that the computers are going to shit themselves and it's going to be like the apocalypse. Remember that? And nothing happened.
They had no timer. The timer was going to run out.
And at the same time,
start a game and everything would be lost.
And at the same time, late 90s, they were pushing global warming. And remember, there's all that stuff with, Al Gore and all that stuff, right? Remember Al Gore and all that? In 10 years,
inconvenient truth.
We'll be flooded and we'll be up to our necks in water. It was all a lie. That's called the long con. So what they did is the short con, which was Y2K, a lie, and the long con. And so with Bill Gates coming out and saying that, he basically saying the jig is up, and yet you still have the full. What's the name of our environmental minister or whatever that guy is? I can't remember his name. You know the guy I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, him.
But
and
that the other thing that came out was Bill Gates is pushing Bovaer, the vaccine to make the cows stop farting, and I've been watching videos from around the world of all the cows dying of it. So if the cow doesn't die of it, you eat that cow. But the cow's mates are dying of this vaccine to stop them farting. It stops them farting by stopping them living. So it's very effective. And,
the Bill Gates thing is strange.
Climate change,
obviously,
which
Bill Gates is not a good guy, as we well know.
No.
So, and I actually think, I'm pretty damn sure he's in the Epstein files. I would say Trump is using them. I imagine he said to Bill Gates, he said to him, listen, you come out and tell the truth about climate change right now, or else I'm going to just dump everything from the Epstein files on you into the mainstream media. Now, is Trump in the Epstein files? Probably. But I think that Epstein tried to blackmail him. Whether he was successful or not, we'll never know, because I reckon if there was anything, they would have dumped it under Biden.
I think Trump would be too clever to be caught in a compromising position like
that.
Yeah. I think he's too savvy.
Yeah, Prince Andrew too. I mean, obviously, Prince Andrew was a complete fool to have anything to do with Epstein. But the whole point is, it was a honeypot. It was designed to entrap people. He was using Victoria's Secret models who are 20. You know what I mean? To lure people in, and then he would slip in the 15-year-old or 16-year-old. So the whole thing was designed. And then once that's been done, Prince Andrew's got has to, because he's obviously you can see what this one scandal has done to him. But it's very interesting that he is the only client known to him. He's the only one who's publicly pay a price. That's the brother of the King of England. I mean, that's very significant, because he represents the monarchy. The British monarchy represents the old world order, right? And we're heading into the new world order. And Epstein represents the new world order, right? So it's an interesting way that they laid the whole Epstein thing at the door, as a kind of fuck you, I imagine. Because I don't know how this global power machinations work behind the scenes, but it was very interesting. I thought that he is the only client, essentially, who was made public.
He's the only one that I know of.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
There's just rumors, from Tom Hanks to.
I'm not saying he didn't do anything wrong, but
there is a senator, that blonde senator in America. Apparently, she's threatened to read out the entire list in the Congress, whether she does it or not, whether she survives that long. So I don't know.
I mean, the little black book. I mean, but it's exactly the whole details of it. It's like a black hole, because it is a blackmail operation, and the powers that be under Biden don't want people to see it, and essentially under Trump they don't want people to see it either. So for whatever reason, it compromises far too many people on both sides of the house.
Think of the wealth. If they reveal all these names, they lose all this power they have over all of these people. They destroy all these people.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, I don't think this is unusual what Epstein is doing. It's not like all rich people are running around doing that. No, but there are more than one Epstein in the world doing that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And you could see how they would do it and how you could get caught.
It's the way that. It's the way, because when you're collaborating with people who are essentially destroying Western civilization, you need to compromise them. They have to be owned. Because how can you trust them?
There's a great thing, Charles and Jimmy Savile. I mean, Jimmy Savile Jim Will Fix It was a huge. When I was in England
It
as
was a
a
similar
kid, that was a
situation.
huge show. Jim Will Fix It,
Yeah, that's
or
a similar
something. It's
situation.
something like that.
That's almost like that's obviously before Epstein, and this is
Yeah.
that was like the operation before, and that was one in the UK. Obviously, Epstein was one in the.
But he was
in the
good mates with the king, with Charles. I mean, this was.
Oh, now is Charles just a fool? Of course, did he not know? I find it very hard that MI5, who protects the royal family, didn't know anything about Jimmy Savile. You know what I mean?
That's
So
right.
it's very
And
suspicious.
how long did the
very
BBC know and keep it all quiet?
Yeah, no. It's once you start getting into all this stuff, you start going into what's called Pizzagate and everything. I don't want to go there either tonight, but it's all very true. And of course, mainstream media will never touch it because the people who run mainstream media are the ones involved.
Well, mainstream media has not run the Bill Gates story, which is like the story so far of the year.
Well, he
Bill Gates
basically
coming
said,
out.
that the climate change, or what's called climate change, the climate is not going to be a threat to humanity. That it's just going to fluctuate maybe a degree or two and then go back to normal. That's the truth. But that guy, I can't remember the guy's name, but the Australian guy who works for Albo, whoever's in charge of that area, Brad Bowen, is that his name? Something like that. And he's predicting all this kind of doom, and it's been made into such a political issue in Australia that you had the Teals. Remember the Teals that took a lot of votes away from the Liberals? Yeah. And then, of course, you've got Susan Ley, who's a terrible leader.
Murray what?
No, that's not him. No, it's Bowen. His name is Bowen.
Environment.
I'll look it up. No, it's not. He's some other minister, Bowen, somebody or other. His name is.
Oh, that's correct. Maybe someone can say anything, but that is correct. So now they're pushing it. Now we know it's a lie. You've got Bill Gates saying it's a lie, and they're still pushing it. They're pushing it everywhere, but it's a lie now. So now they've got nothing to fall back on, and we've got like E. Karen was wanting to ban anything. E. Karen was wanting. If you posted anything that went against climate change, E. Karen wanted it banned, and yet
and you spoke about cost of living. I mean, things like to do with climate change, that totally affects cost of living. And this is a real bugbear for Sam Newman. He often talks about it on his show, You Can't Be Serious podcast. It's just ridiculous. And also, he's been traveling around Australia in this caravan with Sue Stanley, and everywhere he goes, he says, what's it called? The environment is despoiled by these hideous wind turbines. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what we see.
Sunset, or you've got a beautiful, like coastline, and it's covered in these hideous things that are useless. They are useless.
Yep.
So only the globalists would invent something that is supposed to be green that isn't. That in a sense, they despoil the environment. They smash up birds, and they also, if they're near the sea or they're in the sea, they make whales want to commit suicide or whatever. So it's evil. It's evil. The green agenda itself is evil. Obviously not saving the planet. The real aspect of saving the planet, of cleaning up your rivers and actually building more forests or whatever, that's fine. But the actual agenda that they promote is actually not green at all, even though they say it is.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Incredible.
Yeah, it really is extraordinary. So we don't have to be this broke. We don't have to be stuck with all this. We can actually have, because I got approached by someone who's just in China, businessman. He said China is paying 7 to 12 cents for a kilowatt for power in the private sector. In the industrial sector, it's 14 to 20 cents. He said in Australia, it's 30 to 40 cents. And China is using our coal. So we're shipping our coal to China, and they're offering their people power that's like less than of what we're paying.
We could have half the price of China because we have all.
We could have 2 or 3 cents. We could have 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt.
And I don't know if you've noticed that your phone bill or
tons of investment. Tons of investment would come into the country because it'd be cheap power. Australia could be absolutely booming, and we're not because of all these ideological bullshit and whatever else is going on.
I mean, we could be having, like our electricity bills. And this is another lie. They said, if it's going to be green energy, it's going to be cheaper. What rubbish. We all know they're mega expensive. I mean, there's a great video from Tucker Carlson where he says that you have the world's greatest energy resources in this country, which we do. But then what we do is we ship that over to China, who make super expensive renewables, who then ship them back to us. And then we chuck them up and they last about 5 years and they don't even work. I mean, only someone who designed that scheme, he said, hates you. And that's true. That's completely true.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember him saying that.
We should just take our cheap energy and use it.
Yeah.
And we do not worry about our carbon footprint. Because even if climate change was real, which of course it isn't, but even if it was, nothing we could do could stop it. Because our contribution to global, whatever the fuck it is nothing anyway.
We're about as important as a flea farting on a Great Dane.
We're a fart in the wind, mate. We are a fart in the wind on a global scale, and so we should do. We could build another 10 coal-powered fire stations, and
have the thing as a culture. We're so desperate to be seen as good global citizens. Look at us. We're putting up turbines everywhere. Everything you want us to do, we're doing.
That's it. That's the key. You've nailed the key right there. We want to appear like we're doing the right thing, and that's often the way our altruism, the Aussie side of, and it even rubs off on the foreigners that are here, that Aussies are easygoing, that we're nice, that we're kind, and I think on the whole Australians are. But whoever's behind this scam is using our good nature against us, and that's what's fucked, mate. And it's a disgrace that our kindness and our generosity and our good nature and our easygoingness is being used to destroy, one of the greatest nations on earth, which Australia is, which Australia really is.
With the potential to be probably the greatest, one of the, as moving forward, literally the greatest countries going forward. Absolutely.
And we have a tremendous opportunity in the 21st century due to the fact of how far away we are, due to the fact that we have so much land, so much beachfront, so many beaches. We could develop.
Hard to invade. We're too big and it's too sparse, and
China might disagree with you on that one, but we'll wait and see. The Japanese had different ideas.
Job to invade Australia would take a huge job, especially.
Probably bigger than. The Chinese could maybe pull it off, but they did float their flotillas around the Australia during the last election, and I think it appeared in one newspaper. You think that'd worry us, wouldn't you?
Cheers. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, China hasn't kicked off. Trump is trying to contain China.
China hasn't actually invaded anyone but Nepal, though. We have to remember this. They don't actually do that. They can buy the world.
The real country, as we well know, is creating wars and going. Is America and their dear little pal Israel in the Middle East. So there we go.
That's the truth.
I know, sad but true.
That's the truth. America, it's where we are. You've got to remember that
Russia's involved in one war. In Ukraine, that was most likely provoked, I would say, by the coup leaders, Zelensky and pals, over in 2014. And it's a terrible loss of life, not only to Russians, because there's rumors that people who are disabled people are now being sent from Russia. Obviously, but this is the purpose of the war. It's meant to deplete Russia's army because they want war with Russia, which is an insanity again because of their nuclear arsenal. And it's basically a genocide. What we're seeing is a genocide of Ukrainians because they also run out of young Ukrainians. And there's calls to escalate the war. I loved Ozzy Cossack. He always spoke interesting thoughts on all this, and he's locked up. In the locked up in the I think the Russian embassy. There you go, mate. Shout out to Ozzy Cossack. He used to come to the rallies, remember?
Yeah, I introduced him when he came to the rally in Perth.
There you go. So fascinating times. Where are you at the moment, anyway, Michael?
I'm in Port Macquarie, and the bus. We were only supposed to be here for a day or two to do an oil change and other things before heading off, but we found we had a significant problem with the brake master cylinder, and no one makes them, so we're getting it re-engineered. So we're stuck here in Port Macquarie. But it's a great thing, Bill and the boys. It's great to be here. It's great company. It's great environment. So we're doing okay, but we're kind of itching to get back on the road,
Yeah.
And I'm very interested. We're heading to Perth, but I'm very interested in the mental health. I know people put mental health down. Mental health. But when I did that post about my face and being bipolar and everything, I didn't know what was going to happen. But what happened was an outpouring of people sharing similar stories. And there's so many people struggling in this country. with
Well, mental health is an issue, isn't it? With
it's
people.
huge. They're suffering
Everyone has their
depression,
ups
they're
and downs.
suffering frustration, they can't leave the house. It was just I spent literally days just reading one story after another, or they were talking about their relatives that they just couldn't. It was so difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really interested in that more than COVID injuries. I've done a lot of that, and the AVM bus is doing that. The Vax bus is doing that, and I still
Mhm.
do that. But I'm very interested in the mental health of Australians. We still got this. I saw someone said the other day the suicide rate is up because they've engineered it now. They've got things like if you have a car accident on a long road in the country and you just happen to drive in a tree, the police have a discretion. That's what I was told. I know it's true. Police have the discretion of putting down as an accident. The guys that drink themselves to death, people that drug themselves to death over a period of time, they don't count. So they're washing it down only because they don't want the world to know we have a significant problem. The lucky is missing from Australia now. The lucky country, it's just the country. And they don't
Well,
want to deal with it. And they can't deal with it because the only way to deal with it is to deal with it honestly. And they're so lost in their ideological bullshit, they don't know
yeah.
what honesty is anymore.
And also, I mean, to what extent is it our country anymore? You know what I mean? Like, our
Mm.
cities resemble Asian cities now. Melbourne and Sydney particularly. When you travel around like you're doing out in the country, you see more what you call actual Australians. But this level of culture shock has a lot of very bad effects on people
Well, I
in
think, look,
relation to
I
mental
like
health.
multiculturalism, but
Well,
it has
sure,
to
you
be
might like
balanced.
multiculturalism, but I'll tell you, most real Australians do
But
not
it
like.
has to be balanced. I mean, we all get Uber Eats. We all benefit from multiculturalism on
Yeah,
many
but mate,
different levels.
you can order. Anyone can make an
Yeah,
Indian
but
meal.
it needs to be
We've got the
balanced. And
recipes,
we have to protect our own race.
Yeah,
Because if you become a minority in your own country,
well, that's what's
well,
happening.
look what happens to any minority in
And
any
if it was
country.
just happening in
You do not
Australia,
do
you'd think,
well.
oh well, that's just the way Australia's gone. But it's happening in every single European country.
No,
It's
that's
happening
right.
in the UK. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in France. It's happening in Switzerland. It's happening in Sweden. It's happening in
Yeah.
Italy. It's happening in Spain. And it's happening in Ireland. Ireland never did anything to anybody, and it has a beautiful, unique culture. We all know what Irish culture is, and yet
Well, I think
even after all these years of fighting the English with the IRA and all that terrorism and everything, as soon as that wound down in the late 90s, there was they had one I can't remember the guy's name, but one minister of whatever that department got in and around
yeah.
2010 flooded the country with immigrants, mate. And there it is.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
Well, the thing is, it's what's really interesting is
his name was
it's
Shatter. I know
definitely
that much. His name was Shatter.
it's
What was his
definitely
name?
changing the culture.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and there was Liz Gunn posted a thing from, and I don't usually put other races down, but this was a Muslim leader. I can't remember what he was a Muslim leader of, but it's something quite high up. And he
Mhm.
did a Facebook post of which he apologized for, in which he was saying Muslim men need to start impregnating Australian women because
Yeah, I saw that.
Australian men can't do it. Now that is if that was a white guy doing it against, we've got to start impregnating Muslim women because the Muslim
Yeah,
guys aren't
yeah,
up
yeah,
to it. There would be war.
yeah.
There would be violence on the streets.
Of course,
But
yeah.
you say it against Aussies, and we're so fucking placid. We just now,
No, I know that.
and
And the other thing too is I think often people who talk about defending our cultures, defending Ireland or whatever, defending England, they say, "Oh, you're racist." I think that the opposite is the case. That you're almost like a conservationist of the people. Wanting
yeah,
to protect the Irish is not racist. As a matter of fact, it's the
no,
opposite. The racists
yeah,
are the people wanting to flood it with completely different people, so that every European country becomes a kind of a mishmash of cultures from around the world, and that everywhere becomes the same. Every European country becomes a kind of nowhere land. And I think it's
yeah,
they are the real racists. They are the ones just, causing all this nightmare. And so I think everything is arse up, mate. So the people who are Australia first, England first, Ireland first, Germany first, whatever, these are the actual anti-racists who just want to protect the local population, mate. The
yeah.
indigenous population of these countries.
Well, if I
And
had
that's a lot
my
of the
way,
Aborigines too.
I'd happily live in a very multicultural country, as long as the white people were the majority.
Yeah, well, that's
That's my
changing,
thing.
obviously. Yeah, yeah.
And that's what's changing. And I'm telling you,
And it's
if
deliberate. It's
you know,
deliberate.
you go, oh, if you're in a country where that doesn't happen, and every other country does it. If you go to Dubai, you can't become a citizen. You go to Japan,
Of course.
F all trying to get citizen. They protect every other country does this. Other races that are calling us racist actually do it. And so, it's even all we got a lot of white people living in Thailand now and Vietnam. Even there, you can't become a citizen. You have to leave,
That's
you have
right.
to come back.
That's right.
They're
That's right.
basically using you for your money. And they're very
Yeah, all
happy for you to
all
be
this
there for your money.
agenda, like,
But you're not Thai.
yeah,
You're not
of course not.
Singaporean. You are not
Exactly.
Vietnamese.
Yeah,
You are a tourist or an expat. That's what you are.
that's
And
right.
so they look after their own. And we have to do that. Because if the white people become a minority in Australia,
Yeah, we're
man,
fucked.
your kid's trying to get a job, other things like that, forget it. Because other races are clever enough to look after themselves. Why wouldn't you? You get a lot of Indians here. Hey, we'll get my Indian mates in and we'll
Yeah,
take over and we'll prosper. Why not?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why
Well, I
wouldn't you
mean,
do it?
I had one time when I lost my license, I was getting a lot of cabs, and I had this Indian, cab driver explain it to me. He goes, "It's not a multicultural society." He said, "It's a parallel culture." He says, "I'm Indian. I exist within their Indian places I go, Indian nightclubs, Indian places of worship. There's an Indian culture here that I can participate in, right?" And he says, "And if you're Chinese, that's the same with the Chinese community.
Yeah.
If you're Arab or
Vietnamese the
Muslim,
same, Greeks the same.
Arab,
Yeah.
Muslim, there's the same. There's mosques and there's this and there's all the kind of restaurants, and and these are not these communities tend to self getaways. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
No.
And they don't want it to work. The immigrants here don't want it to work, and the same with the Africans. So and then we've just got us Aussies who are here and actually built the country, going, "What the fuck's going on?" And then when we bring it up, we're accused of being this, that, and the other. You know?
Yeah, well, I know a young man recently. He took a shine to a Muslim girl, and he was really hung up on her. And then she told him, "Look, I can't do it. You're not Muslim."
Yeah.
But that wouldn't happen the other way. The Aussie parents are suddenly going around, "Oh, you can't see her. She's not
Yeah.
Australian." They wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But it's not even putting the Muslims down for that. The Jewish do it. The Jewish protect their own. They protect their
Of course.
culture.
I mean, why do
Because
you
if
think
you
they
don't
are
have
the most
culture, if you don't have history, then what you have, and that's where I think I'm moving forward now. In Australia, we are a disempowered race. We're sexless almost. I walk around. Where's the guy striding around like, John
yeah,
Travolta in the opening of Saturday Night
the
Fever?
country
Hey,
is so different.
I'm full of cum and I'm ready to fucking have some fun. They don't. They all walk around like this placidly. And like you said, the girls, I remember when I was a tram driver, the girls would get on the trams like literally in glad wrap, and the boys wouldn't even look at them. And I think the girls would wear less glad wrap next time, as if to say, what do we have to do to be looked at? And I'm just thinking that there's a lot of issues that we can't fix because we refuse to look at the truth of the situation at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
these are
and that's why
simple
there's so many
fixes.
lies, in media, and this whole agenda of mass migration and climate change and woke and all this stuff. It's all directed at Western European countries because it doesn't exist in China. Certainly doesn't exist in the Muslim world. It doesn't
Wouldn't
exist.
exist in
Doesn't
Rwanda.
exist in Africa. They don't know what woke is. It doesn't exist in Southeast Asia. It doesn't. The people in like Thailand or Bali, they don't know about woke. I mean, what the hell is it? And if you explain it to them, they laugh. They go, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah, I
Anyway,
did talk to
there
a
you go.
guy from Egypt, though. He was a teacher in Egypt, Australian expat, and he said woke was going crazy in Egypt. Young guy, because
Well,
I thought
it,
in
it
Egypt,
infects everywhere. It can infect everywhere.
yeah, and he said young guys are coming, and they're really as woke. So it maybe they're doing it to emulate the Western culture, rather than like
Yeah, I
when
mean,
we were.
Japan, for example, Japan was a country that was known for it not, allowing in immigrants, but recently it
Mm,
did, and I think for the last 5 years they began an experiment of bringing in some immigrants, and of course the Japanese didn't like it, and then they've elected a new female prime minister who's been called like the Japanese Maggie Thatcher, who's
wow.
like hopefully going to stop it. So it's extraordinary, really, what's going on, you know.
Yeah. And
So
even
there you go.
here, I mean, a lot of it was cheap. Like I saw in America now, they're using people in restaurants, you order now from a Filipino waitress who's in the Philippines. She's on a computer screen.
Really?
So they pay her $3 an hour American to be on this computer screen in the Philippines, and everyone orders through them. There just seems a devalorization of humanity in Australia. That's why I posted that photo. I actually
Yeah.
think it's fucking marvelous to be a human being, and we are
Yeah.
fucking powerful beings. We are the animal on this planet. You want to be an animal on this planet, you want to be a human being. You
You
want to,
do, yeah.
because you can do all manner of shit. Okay, there's a dolphin, you can swim and you can do a somersault, but that's going to get boring after a week. No matter how fucking into it you are, after a week you're going to go, I want clothes, I want my hands back, I want to be able to walk, and I'm sick of eating fish. You know what I mean? So you'd be a dolphin for a bit. You'd actually, you actually want to be a human because we're so capable of so many things. And we have such power, such grace, such possibility. And they're trying to make us feel like we are nothing so they can
Yeah.
do with us what
And
they want. And
you
the
have
real
to stand
problem
up,
is people are complying to the nothingness.
and you have to stand up against, non-human agendas. And that, obviously
Yeah.
there is going to be some benefits to things like AI and benefits to
Yep.
things like robots. And I'm not saying that technology could not be deployed in a humane way. I believe it could be used in a
Yep.
humane way, but we must be very, very careful that it is deployed, because if
Yep.
you're going to end up with, within 10 or 15 years with half your nation being unemployed, or it should not be used for anti-human ends. And of course,
Yeah.
this technology is by its very essence anti-human. And in
Yep.
that
And they're
sense, you're
stopping
dealing with
us
something that's
doing
openly,
shit.
almost, to go that far to make a religious connotation, it's almost openly satanic in a way, this kind of
Yes.
technology. And that's why we have to be very,
That is
very,
exactly what
very
it is.
careful.
Putting us down any way we can. Where, look, to me, so I've had a heart attack recently this year. I think it was this year.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've had the heart attack this year, but all this other shit going down. I survive on the breadline, but I don't care because I enjoy my life. I'm having the best sex I've ever had in my life, and I'm having lots of it. I'm fully alive. I am a symbol of fucking freedom, mate. I go where I want, when I want. I say what I want, when I want, and I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. I am a symbol of fucking freedom, and I am milking every day of my life as much as I can. And I'm
Well, good
caring
on you, mate.
less and less. And the reason I'm doing that now is because you people who are listening, no offense, you guys as well, and so many others, you are so trapped. You want to escape the matrix. The matrix isn't you in a fucking soup bowl with wires coming out. The matrix is you imprisoned by the fear of what other people will think of you. So you're too frightened to speak. You're too frightened to wear what you want to wear. You're too frightened to fucking walk down with a bit of a swag. You're too frightened because of the fear. And that's how we escape the matrix. We
Mhm.
start fucking remembering how great it is to be a human and living, fucking enjoying it. If you're not
And we
fucking
get
happy in your
involved.
life, then fucking change something and find some happiness, because you got one chance, one go in this life. So if you're staying around like a non-player character, you are a fucking idiot.
Yep.
You're going to get to the other side, and the gods and the angels are going to go, you serious? We gave you a brain, a heart, all these senses, this huge ability to do whatever you want, and you just sat in a room, was frightened to fucking speak. We gave you the ability to speak, to discover
Well,
for
Martin,
yourself what it is to be human, all these other wonderful things, and you're walking away from it for what? For what?
yeah.
What's the benefit to you if you're
Mm.
fucking miserable? What are you getting out of giving into their fear? It's
Well,
time to shut off.
my favorite philosopher, Martin Heidegger, always talks about, the forgetfulness of being, that, human beings
Yeah.
are moving towards this. They forget the fact that they exist, and that their existence has meaning to them as existing animals, that we need to question our own existence, and that questioning
All the
our own
time.
existence is what makes us human. You know what I mean? And as we move
All the time.
closer into this, what's called digital singularity, we fall into an abyss of non-human, activity, and that's where our own being can be extinguished. So we're right on the cusp of the abyss at the moment, but it's a very interesting time to be alive, and it's very good to hear that you're being yourself
Having
and
fun.
doing what you want to do, mate. So that's very good, mate.
I just want to say this though, because I actually include you in this quote. It's I actually include you in this quote.
Yeah.
Now, I read On the Road by Jack Kerouac.
Yeah.
It took me a long time. And my take of it is this was a homosexual, a closeted homosexual love story. He was madly in love with Dean Moriarty. You read about the book, you read about his descriptions of Dean. When he's with a woman, he goes, and then I was with this woman. You never hear anything about her, what she looked like. But Dean, he talks about at length. So actually, I think that's what it is.
Well, they were
But
good friends. You know, they were traveling
not that
together.
I give a shit. Not that I give a shit. But
It's
I do
based
think
on,
that's
what's the
what
name
it
of the
is.
guy? Neil Cassidy, wasn't it? It was based on Jack
Yeah.
Kerouac and Neil Cassidy's friendship.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But he did say this wildly popular quote. The only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved. And you're that. You're
Thank
that.
you.
You're mad to talk. And I love it. And that's what I like hanging around.
Wow.
David's the same. Kelly's the same. There's a lot of other people I know in the movement are the same. This is my mob. We're here and we want to
That's right.
live.
And we just
And
want to
we're
say what
gonna
we
live.
want to say. You know, we're not always correct on everything we say or think or whatever.
How
but like,
can you grow if you don't
this-
fuck up with what you're saying and learn?
exactly. And this was, you know, this is what's important. That's why we always did the No Goat Show, and it's why I've always spoken out. You know, and everything I've did, whether it be my nightclubs or my film festival activities, and you can whack up my poster once again. So
Here we
Muff
go.
is coming.
Man,
The catalogue will be
Muff,
online next week.
25th.
Come
25th
along.
Melbourne Underground Film Festival, Friday, November 28th to December the 4th. Go see
25 years
some.
of Muff.
Go see some films that in the future might end up being the
Next big thing.
birthplace of masterpieces.
There you go. Thank you, Michael.
That's it. Honestly,
it,
it
Matt.
does 25 years now, so it's going from there, or 24 years, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's it, guys. I was going to go out with this thing called Taxi Lover, but I think I'll go out with the opening song. So this is a thing. I'm using AI, puts music to it, but I work really hard on the lyrics. So it takes a few hours to get it together because you can keep going with it. But I really love this song. This is Mary Magdalene. And I urge you, if you're despondent, if you're sad, think. If I'm on the Facebook media all the time, Facebook, is it making you happy or is it just making you more frustrated? You're here to live.
Get off
It's one
social
of your
media
options.
unless you're watching Cafe Lockdown, of course.
That's
Then
right.
okay. Then that's okay.
Right. That's right.
Very good, mate.
That's right. While we still exist, we're here. This little light. Everyone keeps going to me. I'm sorry, I don't watch you anymore. Anyway, well, that's probably because you don't hear.
Love you, mate. And
Okay, Rich,
have
have a
fun.
great thing. This is called Mary
Computer AI
Magdalene.
with Michael Gray Griffiths.
That's right. It's written for Kelly. Take care.
I wanted to find a lover who made me forget the universe, or rather made the universe feel like it was starting within. I wanted to find a lover I could paint a picture with, and our paint would be each other, and our hues would be alive. But I've been offered love in poetry, psychoanalyzed to the bone. I've been broken and consecrated, I've been discarded in the thorns. I've been searching in all the wrong places, for I felt that that's where you'd be found. Or am I the one that's reaching like a weed, escaping the ground? And if I find you, will the universe fall away? And when I ask you, are you the one for me, will you say, look at me, until you can see that I am who I am. I am Mary Magdalene. I wanna find a lover to illuminate is out there looking for me. For surely there has to be, surely there has to be. I wanna find a lover, that's why I'm falling into you. As you it seems are falling just as deeply into me. As you it seems are falling just as deeply into me. Have you noticed? The universe is gone, I can feel it in our joints, struggling to begin. And when I ask you, are you the one for me? Look at me, you'll say. Look at me until you can see that I am who